but is an apology that Ford made on a radio show and a promise to change from the embattled Toronto mayor enough? Is it too little, too late? Should he still be running Canada's biggest city? Joining me now is Toronto Councillor Gloria Lindsay Luby. Councillor, good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Evan. How are you?
I'm very well. You heard what Mayor Ford had to say yesterday on his radio show. He apologized. He admitted he was been hammered, quote unquote, in public. He said nothing about the current relationship with Mr. Lisi and some other questions about his drug or alleged drug use. Did anything change for you?
Not really, no. I think that he received very good advice from his lawyer not to deal with those particular subjects, so he stuck to the script.
And what do you make of his call to get the video released? What do you think's up with that? There's a video that allegedly shows, the police have it, they allegedly shows he smoked crack cocaine.
I am very suspicious of that because that video obviously should not be tried in the court of public opinion, but in the courts themselves. I believe that our chief, Bill Blair, knows what he's doing. He's following the Police Services Act and the best direction from the Crown prosecutors.
You backed Mayor Ford in the past. When did things start to change for you?
Well, I backed him whenever there's been an issue that I agree with. I've never been a member of his executive committee, although he's asked a number of times. I've never wanted to get more involved. I am an independent, a fiscally right conservative. You know, so if we agree on things, that's fine. But that's just as far as it goes.
He's not stepping down. He's made that very clear. In fact, I think he was on a radio show saying any executive members, my executive members, obviously I'll be talking to them today. Anybody wants to go, he says, go. I'll run the ship even if it's by myself. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't think he can run the ship by himself because the way we are organized, and this is within our policies and procedures, is that we have an executive committee. I used to be on that with Mel Lassman and David Miller. And members of the executive are individually chairs of different committees, and then there's 4 members at large. I do know that he's been having a hard time getting members to fill the vacant spots of others who have either decided not to be there or he, for one reason or another, don't want to be on the executive. So.
All right, so what questions do you have? I mean, he says he's answered some questions. As I say, he wants the video to come out. He's apologized for getting drunk at a festival. He urinated in public, apparently. He says pretty offensive things allegedly on the tape. I mean, there's a lot going on here, and yet he wants to stick it out. What major questions do you have left for Rob Ford? Well,
I don't know why he would be drinking behind the high school that he went to, which is in my ward, and then urinating on a tree behind the high school. That is like a 15-year-old would behave. Why would you do that? You're a grown man. You're the mayor of the city. So I think this is something that for the individual who may be, you know, all in favor of Ford, you can't understand why somebody would behave that way.
What about what Doug Ford said on a radio show? You know, if my brother wants to drink, I've told him to drink in the basement. What do you make of that?
Well, some 81-year-old woman said, why are you being an enabler? I think that the mayor needs to step aside, at least for a month or whatever, get some professional help, get his life on track, and then come back to the city and act like a mayor.
Well, you would accept him back. I mean, what's the break? I mean, some people might think, how much forgiveness? I mean, maybe the guy does have a drinking problem. I don't know. Maybe he's got a drug problem. We don't know. But, I mean, how many chances does this guy get to run the biggest city in the country?
Well, unfortunately, it's not that simple. As you know, he's had various court cases, conflict of interest, election expenses. So far, he's escaped all of those. The thing is, the Municipal Act doesn't give us many options. So other than him resigning, he would have to have been found guilty of fraud or corruption or something like that for it to happen. And my understanding is the Premier of Ontario really doesn't want to go there. She doesn't want to get involved in this at this point.
What do you think of Councillor Norm Kelly, the deputy mayor? Let me read you what Norm Kelly has said. He said, Ford's taken, in his eyes, dramatic steps to change his lifestyle. I take him at his word, and I'll hold him to that. Like, this is enough. What's your take?
Well, I guess seeing is believing. So I think Deputy Mayor Kelly is doing as far as he thinks he can push it. But it will depend upon the mayor to turn those words into action.
Do you think he has an alcohol or drug problem?
Well, I'm not an expert in these things. You know, I don't work for CAMH or anything like that. But certainly the number of occasions this has spilled over into the public arena has been too numerous to dismiss lightly.
If the video gets out, and now we've all heard, you know, reporters have seen it. They said it appears that he's smoking crack cocaine. Now, the police have said, even if he was, we can't convict him. It's not a criminal offense for doing something on tape because they just don't know in a video. If it does release and it does show him allegedly doing that, is that enough for you, not just to take some time away to step down, but to basically step aside and have new elections? What's the breaking point for you?
It's not a breaking point for me. It's a breaking point within the Municipal Act. And I just don't ever see him stepping down no matter what, unless he is forced to step down. I just don't think he will do that. He doesn't back off, and that's part of his personality.
How much damage, in your view, is he doing to the City of Toronto?
It's hard to put a figure on that. It's certainly damaging our reputation. However, condos are still being built, but we do have the Regional Board of Trade saying, for goodness sakes, step aside, deal with your issue. And when you've got the business sector saying that to you, you've got to take that more seriously than maybe a few people squawking from various wards. I know I've had a lot of emails from Etobicoke Centre, which used to be his stronghold.
Yeah.
And, oh no, they're not buying this at all.
But polls show, I mean, there's a poll, October 28th, 44% of voters approve of Rob Ford as mayor. What do you make of that? I mean, you don't believe it?
I don't believe polls. Look at what happened in BC. I think that polling is a very inexact science, regardless of what the pollsters will tell you. It's one moment in time. And a lot of people do not respond truthfully to polls.
Okay, so basically, Rob Ford, in your view, hasn't done enough. You want him to step aside.
Absolutely.
All right, Councillor, I really appreciate your time here. You guys are in the center of a major, major storm all over North America, all over the world. They're paying attention to this, and this is probably not for an attribute you thought your city had.
Well, I'm at the point where I don't want to tell people what I do. Because the first thing is that they're going to be saying, well, how do you stand your mayor? You know, it's right? Embarrassing.
You're ashamed of being a councillor in Toronto?
Yeah, I don't want other people to know that. I try to hide it as much as I can.
That is astonishing. And have you heard that from other councillors?
I don't know about them, but I have traveled on vacations and this is what I get from people. So now even last year, people said, oh, I read that article in The Economist. And, you know, these are learned individuals. So, you know, when you've got that class of people reading this material broadly, it's very embarrassing. And now, of course, all this media is going globally.
You know, it's funny, just for the record, just to pick up on it, it's funny you would use that expression, that class of people, because some have said that part of this is about class, the war against Rob Ford, the 905 versus the 416. I mean, is that what this is?
No, it's supposed to be suburbs against the urbs or something like that, suburbanites. Well, I have a lot of suburbanites because I do represent a suburban area, and we don't see it that way. I think many people see us as one city. It's certainly one tax base, and when you see that 1.6% increase already on our taxes to fund one small subway in Scarborough, that really does not meet with a lot of popularity.
All right, I got to leave it there. Councillor, great pleasure to have you on the program today, and we
Thanks.
await the next turn of events. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen.